welcome you into our home and we invite you for this half an hour to join us, where we'll be sharing some point about marriage.
I am Nikol, Baldacchino, and this is Mary, my wife. We are from Malta. We've been involved in the Catholic Charismatic Renewal for these last 42 years, and we also serve in one way or another in marriage ministry. We serve most especially in the preparation of young couples to receive their sacrament of marriage. We also travel to several countries giving talks about married life.
For us this year we just celebrated our 38 years of wedding anniversary, and we have 4 children. We are grandparents as well to 4 young little children.
As we all know, even the most wonderful, perfect relationship can go bad and can end up in divorce. The latest statistics, at least for Europe, show that half of divorces occur within the first 7 years of marriage. We've seen it all, 2 great persons, 2 young persons, madly in love with each other, head over heels in love, but then something goes wrong and they end up in divorce. What happened? They seemed so happy together. We all know that bad marriages can lead to many problems, physiological difficulties, psychological difficulties, bad high blood pressure, heart disease, anxiety, depression, sometimes physical violence, sometimes emotional violence, substance abuse, name it all. And above all, bad marriages will leave a negative impact on the lives of our children.
We all believe that we all want good and healthy marriages. But today we are going to ask another question. And we're going to ask, what contributes then to the breakup of marriages? We are going to share some points, Nikol.
Yes.
And I will be sharing my first point. Criticize each other as much as possible. This is the first ingredient to break up a marriage. Criticize not just the action, but also the character and the personality of your partner. Try as much as possible to break up the self-esteem of her or him. Complain, nag and manipulate, so as to break up all possibilities of compassion, honesty and openness towards one another. And whenever opportunity arises to break up his or her morale, take it immediately. This will sure be the first step to help contribute to break down your marriage.
The second point, harbor resentment for each other. Always enjoy festering negative thoughts. Not just words, but negative thoughts about your partner. And by the way, never trust her. Never trust him. Lack of trust begins many times on little difficulties that they are never addressed. So when you have a difficulty between you, don't treat it. And this will result in lack of trust. One partner of both of you can think, you did this to me, and I can never get over it. Huh? And this type of toxicity and buried tension inside you will continue to build up and build up in you. And eventually, one day, it requires a release. And often, this will end up in in the form of explosive arguments, fighting with each other, nagging with each other, sometimes even physical violence on each other. And please, whenever you argue with each other, always and always do it in front of an audience. This audience may be your children. Argue in front of your children. Argue in front of your in-laws, of your extended family, of your neighbors. Your neighbors will enjoy the show of both of you shouting and arguing with each other. Your audience can be your friends or your colleagues at work, and this will guarantee you that it will contribute to the breakup of your marriage. Our third point: marriage is made up of affection and intimacy towards each other. So, if you want to break your marriage, let your affection towards each other die slowly and slowly. The affection, the connection, and the tenderness that once you had for each other, let it dry down from your lack of effort. And so, instead of married couple, you will become roommates. We can guarantee you this. Many couples live their marriage not as husband and wife, but just as roommates. And wherever it's possible, turn your attention, turn your heart, turn your efforts, turn your intimacy towards something else, towards another person. This may be an affair, or also this may become as a result of the attention, the sole attention that you give to your children, and you neglect. By giving all the attention on your children, you neglect your partner. And this will surely lead to jealousy between you, feeling of neglect, you feel undervalued, and the emotional security that all of us need will deteriorate within your relationship and die eventually. Another point, Mary, is if you want to break your marriage, build a solid defense around you. Never listen to what your partner tells you. Never reflect on her emotions, on her needs, or his needs, on what she is sharing with you. Always believe that you are always right and she is always wrong. And please, if you want to break up your marriage, blame each other. Blame each other. Always keep to your point and never be ready to admit that you are wrong. How difficult it is for us to say sorry. So if you want to break your marriage, never be ready to say that you are sorry. And please, always forget to keep up your promises. You promise something to your partner, let it go. Don't keep up your word. Always fail to pay attention. Physical attention, emotional attention, spiritual attention. Because the most important in your relationship is you. The most important thing is me, not the other person. The most important thing is me, not us.
And this leads us to another point. Use the silent treatment. And this is one of the best ways to break up your marriage. Don't give importance to communication. Because communication is the secret of a good marriage. So when the other person tries to communicate, ignore immediately and break it down. Just don't listen. Be silent. Refuse to listen. And you will manage to kill the other person without using any weapons. I tell you, this has a very, very deep effect, and it can kill to the core. Which leads me to another point, which is body language. We can say a lot about our bodies, the way we communicate together. So communication is made up, as we know, not only of words, but also by our attitudes and by our non-verbals, like the way we look, the way we roll our eyes, the way we take our breath, the way we look at the person. So when you are together, pay attention not to your spouse, but to your mobile, to the messages that we are receiving, trying to read them all. Ignore and scroll your mobile. Always show disinterest in what the other person is saying. This will be a good sign that you want to break up what is there in your marriage.
We still have 3 more points to share with you. The next point is, if you want to break your marriage, neglect your sexual intimacy. When you start to forego sex, your intimacy and your resulting connection between you is going to start to drift apart and slowly dies. So it is important never to see this aspect of your relationship as a priority, and never really put an effort to make a positive change in this area. Please show disinterest, show apathy. Let intimacy, especially sexual intimacy between you, dry up until your relationship slowly but surely dies. Another good point to break up your marriage is that always lie about financial issues. While even the closest couples can find it difficult to talk about money, even the richest couples can pass from difficult times in this area of finance. It is so important never to keep an open dialogue about this matter, because money can be the number 1 cause of relationship stress. As we all know, when there are financial problems, we pass from stress in our relationship. And try always to be irresponsible in the way that you spend your money and about sharing with your partner. Try to be deceitful about money. Lie about your expenses, about how much you earn, about what you are doing with your money. Because it can result in a very overwhelming and hurtful emotions. Because it can contribute to a huge breach of trust in the same way that infidelity can be. So if you want to break up your marriage, neglect this area of finance. And finally, we can give you a guarantee for the breaking up of your marriage with this last point. Always leave out God out of your marriage. Leave him out, and your marriage will die one day or another. God can be the greatest threat to a sound and good marriage, because he will challenge you to treat each other as his sons and daughters. God will challenge me to look at Mary not just as my wife, but as my sister in Jesus. And so she deserves not only to be treated as my wife, but as the daughter of the Father who is in heaven. Leave out God, because God will give you the strength to forgive each other. Without him, you can never forgive each other. So leave him out. He will give you the strength to start all over again when something goes bad in your relationship. So if you want a bad marriage, leave God out. Never pray individually. Never pray together. Never discuss spiritual things. Leave out everything spiritual outside the door of your homes, outside the door of your hearts. And never believe that he is your constant help, that he can provide, that he is your Father who loves you tremendously and wants the best out of you. God who wants to guarantee a healthy and beautiful marriage. So if you want to break up your marriage, leave him out, and this will guarantee you a bad marriage.
Yes, and as we all know, rarely a couple wants that their marriage will fail. But in most cases, marriages slowly erodes, as you have seen, with all these habits. So the happiness and success of any marriage is reflected in the little things that we do or fail to do for one another. So if we really want, or if you really don't want a bad marriage, as we believe that we don't want a bad marriage, don't let it fall apart, like unfortunately so many couples do. But make a fresh start, and make the start today if possible.
Choose to do something that moves you out of the past, and imagine a brighter future. You can do it. You can start again. All the days of your life is a new day, and you can start again. Choose your relationship over an action. Small actions of love and respect will contribute to the strengthening of your marriage. And we can guarantee you that God will help you and God will bless
you. And we pray that we will ask God to help us reverse any of the habits that we mentioned this evening, that we might have in our marriages, that he can bring forgiveness and healing in our marriages.
And so we are going to end by asking a blessing on our marriage, on your marriages. We ask you, Father, first of all, to heal any traits of infidelity towards one another, of lack of respect, of bad habits in our relationship. You can do it, Lord. You can bring your healing. And you, by the power of your Spirit, who is the Spirit of love, can help us, can motivate us to start once again in having a beautiful and meaningful of relationship. Father, you are love. You love your Son. Jesus, you love your Father. And the love between you is the Holy Spirit. Come, Holy Spirit, in our lives so that we can love each other in the same way that you, the Holy Trinity, love each other. Let us say the Our Father together.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread,
and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Thank you for your attention, and we bless you all. May you have a good and beautiful time together.